Rila sat alone in the junkyard, her large hands wrapped around her knees. The wind howled through broken metal and shattered dreams. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at the dark sky above. Once that sky held hope for her, but now it was just empty. Her kind tall, powerful, elegant once ruled the breeding halls of the Zandari Empire, but she was different, too tall, too wide, too strong. The doctors had said she would never carry children. Her body rejects reproduction, they whispered. Throw her out. The high breeders had ordered. She's useless. And so she was dumped on this scrap world, far from home, no food, no water, no family, just silence and cold metal. All around her, the other castaways feared her size. The local scavengers tried to chain her once. She had snapped the chains and scared them off. But even victory brought no joy. She hadn't spoken in weeks. Her voice felt useless. Her purpose was gone, and without purpose, what was left? Then came the sound engines. A small cargo ship landed not far from where she sat. She didn't look up, didn't care. Another trader, maybe? Another scavenger, probably. Maybe this one would shoot her and end it all. But the footsteps that came were slow, steady, calm. No fear, no hurry. Just curiosity. Jack Mercer was human, and he wasn't young anymore. Graying hair, worn boots, scars on his arms. He had seen war, seen loss, seen cruelty, but even he paused when he saw her. She looked like a mountain, over 10 feet tall, muscles. Like stone, skin pale with blue markings, but her eyes were the saddest thing he had ever seen. You all right? He asked softly, not expecting an answer. She didn't reply, didn't even blink. He sighed, placed a metal box on the ground near her. Food, he said, then turned and started walking back. That made her look up. No threats? No demands? No leash? Just food, left behind? Her stomach growled carefully. She opened the box-warm protein cubes and fresh fruit. She hadn't tasted fruit in months. She ate slowly, almost crying as the sweetness touched her tongue. She didn't notice he had stopped at his ship, watching her from a distance. The next day he came back, another box, more food, a small water tank. Still no words, still no questions. Just quiet presence on the third day. He brought tools. She watched from the shadows as he fixed a broken solar panel nearby. He whistled while he worked, like the junk and dust didn't bother him, like her presence didn't scare him. By the 5th day, she finally asked, "Why?" Her voice was deep, cracked, almost unused. He looked up, surprised but calm. "Why? What?" "Why feed me?" she asked. Jack shrugged. "Because you look hungry. No one helps me," she said bitterly. Jack nodded. Maybe they're fools. Silence again. But something changed. The air between them felt warmer, less sharp. He wasn't afraid of her, and she didn't know what to do with that. "I'm Jack," he said the next day. Offering his hand, she stared at it, then at him. She didn't shake it, but she didn't turn away either. "Rilla," she whispered. He smiled gently. "Good to meet you, Rilla." The next few days passed in strange peace. She didn't speak much, but she listened. Jack told stories of his travels, of human worlds and strange creatures. He never asked about her past, never called her broken. He just treated her like she mattered. And slowly, Rilla started to feel something. Not joy, not yet, but maybe. Hope. Then one morning he said something that made her heart stop. "I'm leaving tomorrow," Jack said. "Got a shipment to deliver." She looked down, trying to hide the sadness in her eyes. "Okay," she said quietly. "But I've got room on the ship," he added. "If you want to come with me?" Rilla froze. No one had ever invited her anywhere. No one had ever wanted her. She stared at him, searching for a trick, a lie, a hidden motive. But Jack just waited, like it didn't matter either way, like he was giving her a choice, not a command. "Why?" she asked again. Jack scratched his beard, thinking, "Because I hate seeing good people left behind." Rilla looked at the empty junkyard, at the rusted metal and cold ground. Then she looked at the small ship, the only light in this forgotten place, and for the first time in her life, she stood up and took a step forward. Maybe her body was too big to reproduce. Maybe she was cast out and labeled worthless. But maybe, just maybe, she wasn't done yet. And maybe one human was all it took to change everything. Asterisk, the inside of the Rustwing smelled like oil. Metal and old leather. Rila stepped in slowly, ducking her head as the ship's roof scraped. Her shoulders, she was too big, even for the largest cargo ship Jack had. But she didn't complain. She didn't want to ruin this chance. Not after being alone for so long. Jack walked ahead, pretending not to notice how tightly she held her. Breathy knew she was nervous, but he didn't rush her. He just talked, soft and calm, like speaking to an old friend. "You can use the cargo bay for now," he said. "More space there," Rila nodded. Sitting down carefully on a steel crate, trying not to break it, the ship groaned under her. Wait, but nothing snapped. She sighed in relief. That night, she didn't sleep. Not because the floor was hard or cold, she was used to that, but because she was afraid this was a dream. A kind dream that would vanish when she woke up. She watched Jack from the corner of her eye. He didn't lock the doors, didn't chain. He simply sat in the cockpit, feet up, reading a datapad and sipping old tea. He looked peaceful, like a man with no fear of monsters. But she still thought of herself as a monster, because that's what they called her. Freak, broken, useless. The words played in her mind like poison. Even when she tried to push them away, they came back louder and louder the next morning. She woke to the smell of cooked eggs and synth bread. Jack held out a plate, as if feeding her was the most normal thing in the world. Rila stared at it, her stomach twisting in confusion. "You cooked this?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," he smiled. "It's not poison, promise." She took the plate slowly, her large hands trembling just a little. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You don't even know me." Jack leaned back, shrugging. "I don't need to know your past to treat you like a person." That sentence hit her harder than any blade ever had. She blinked, then looked away quickly, pretending she didn't feel anything. But her heart had already started to change. Over the next few days, Jack made small changes to the ship. He widened door frames, added metal supports, and cleared out the storage space. "Why?" she asked one day, watching him sweat and hammer. "You need room," he said, "and I like to fix things." She didn't know what to say. No one had ever tried to fix anything for her. She wasn't used to being seen, not like this that night. As the stars blinked outside the ship's windows, Jack spoke again. "You don't have to tell me your story, Rila," he said, "but if you ever want to, I'll listen." She stayed silent for a long time. Then she whispered, "They said my body was wrong." Jack didn't move, just waited. "They tested me when I was of age," she said slowly. "Said I was too big to carry life, too heavy for the birth chambers, too strange to continue our line." She clenched her fists, remembering the way they had looked at her. "Like trash. They said I was a mistake of nature." Jack's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. "They threw me into a slave ship with others like me," Rila continued, her voice shaking. "But the ship was attacked, and I escaped." She looked up, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I've been running ever since." Jack looked at her and said one simple thing. "They were wrong." Rila stared at him, confused. "You're not a mistake," Jack said softly. "You're strong, you survived, and you're here." She turned away, hiding her face. But her heart beat faster than ever before. No one had ever said those words to her. Later, while repairing the engine, Jack found her watching him again. "You want to help?" he asked, handing her a wrench. She blinked in surprise. "I don't know how." "Well," Jack smiled. "Good thing I'm a great teacher." For the first time in years, she laughed. It was quiet, awkward, and short, but it was real. That night, while the ship drifted through quiet space, Jack looked at Rila from the cockpit. She sat in the cargo bay, head resting against the wall, eyes half closed, but this time, she didn't look like a prisoner. She looked like someone finally allowed to rest, and Jack knew, without a doubt, this journey was just beginning. Rila had slept in caves, cages, and under open stars. But nothing ever felt as strange as this, not because it was bad, but because it was peaceful. The Rustwing flew silently through the edge of space. Its engines hummed like a quiet lullaby. The walls creaked, The lights flickered sometimes. It was an old ship, patched up and rusted in places. But to Rilla, it felt like something she never had before. A home. Jack moved through the ship like he belonged there. And now, somehow she was a part of it too. He gave her space. Never asked too many questions, but always made sure she had food, water, and warmth. Still, Rilla couldn't relax fully. She kept expecting a trap, a cage, a price. Was he waiting for her to be weak? Was he planning to sell her later? That thought made her chest tighten. No one gave anything for free in her world. Not to someone like her, but every time she looked into Jack's eyes, she didn't see greed. She saw something else, something she didn't understand yet. One morning, Jack handed her a strange metal tool. "Hold this steady," he said as he climbed under a control panel. Rilla raised an eyebrow. "Why are you fixing that?" "Because it's been buzzing for weeks and driving me crazy," he grinned. She almost smiled. For the next hour, they worked side by side. Jack showed her how to hold wires, twist bolts, and reroute energy. Rilla was clumsy at first. Her big fingers didn't fit well in tiny places, but Jack never mocked her, never got angry. "You've got strength," he said. "We'll build the rest with time." That sentence stayed in her mind all day. "We'll build the rest, not you will. Fix yourself." We, together, that night. While Jack cooked a strange human stew, Rilla asked, "Why do you treat me like this?" Jack looked up, stirring the pot. "Like what?" "Like I'm madder," she said, her voice quiet. Jack placed the spoon down and faced her. "Because you do," he said simply. "No one should feel like trash." Rilla looked away, her throat tight. No one had ever said that to her. Not once. She remembered being paraded in front of scientists. Tested like a lab animal. Measured, scanned, discarded. She remembered the words burned into her memory, too large for the genetic model. Failure to fertilize, no future use. She had begged to stay, begged for one more chance. But they had thrown her away like garbage, and now here she was. Holding wires and tools on a rusty ship, learning new things, hearing new words, feeling new feelings. One evening, Jack brought a folded blanket and placed it beside her. "It gets cold in this part of space," he said. She took it slowly, confused. It smelled like engine oil and soap. It was soft. Too small for her size, but it meant more than he could know. "Thank you," she whispered. Jack nodded. "You don't have to thank me." Rilla, but she wanted to, because no one had ever given her comfort without cost. That night, as she lay under the stars shining through the cargo bay window, something changed inside her. Thought came to her mind, soft and dangerous. What if I could belong somewhere? Then the ship's warning system beeped. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. Jack's voice came over the coms, calm but serious. "Rilla, stay put. I've got incoming trouble." She jumped to her feet, heart racing through the cockpit window. She saw a black ship approaching fast. No signal, no ID. It wasn't a trader, it was a hunter. And it was coming straight for them. Asterisk, the black ship didn't ask questions. It didn't send warnings or hail signals. It just opened fire. The first blast shook the rustwing like a falling tower. Rilla grabbed the wall to stay upright. "Jack," she shouted, her deep voice echoing down the hallway. But Jack was already in the cockpit, fingers flying across the controls. "She's fast," he shouted through the coms. "Hold tight." The rustwing spun hard to the left, dodging another energy bolt. But the black ship stayed on them, closer now, like a predator with locked jaws. Inside the ship, alarms screamed. Lights blinked red. Metal groaned. Rilla's body pressed against the bulkhead as the ship made a sudden dive. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from something worse. Recognition. That ship, she had seen it before, long ago. During the medical trials, it belonged to Dr. Cern, a Xandari geneticist who ran the labs where broken ones like her were studied. He had smiled while poking her with needles, smiled when he said, "Your body's useless, but your DNA is." Curious, now he was back. "They're not here to steal the ship," she said to herself, her fists clenching. "They're here for me, in the cockpit, Jack gritted his teeth as another blast scorched their shields. "She's tagged us," he muttered. "She knows exactly who we are." Then his eyes widened. No, he thought. She knows exactly who Rila is. He tapped the cum. "Rila, get ready to jump if this goes bad. You have to run." "No." She growled, storming into the cockpit. "This is my past, not yours. You think I care?" Jack snapped. "I don't leave people behind, especially not friends." She stared at him, shocked. Friends. The word hit her like a strike to the chest. Outside, the black ship began to rotate. Opening a lower hatch, a small vessel drops, sleek, sharp, and fast. A boarding pod. Jack didn't hesitate. "Locking engine boost," he said, slamming the throttle forward. The Rustwing blasted ahead just before the pod hit its side, glancing blowbutt enough to knock power offline for 10 seconds when lights returned. The worst had happened. They were inside. Footsteps echoed down the hall, heavy and metallic. Rila turned toward the noise, her whole body tight with rage. "They want me alive," she said bitterly, "but they'll wish they didn't." A squad of armored men appeared, weapons drawn. They aimed at her, shouting orders in Zandari tongue on the floor. Face down. But she didn't move. Her eyes turned cold. Then, with one roar, she charged. The first soldier flew back, slammed into a wall so hard, his helmet cracked. Another tried to shoot, but she grabbed his arm and bent it like a twig. 3 more rushed into late. Rila's body moved like thunder. Each strike breaking armor, bone, and pride. Jack watched from a monitor, stunned. She wasn't just strong. She was unstoppable. Not a mistake, not broken, beautiful, terrifying, free. But as the last man fell, she saw a face behind the molder. Thin, cruel Dr. Cern. He stepped into the corridor, holding a small device. "I told them you were valuable," he said with a calm smile. "They didn't believe me. You're a monster." Rila hissed. He chuckled. "And yet you survived what others couldn't. Fascinating." Then he pressed the device. Rila screamed as her muscles locked, body frozen. Pain rushed through her nerves. Her vision blurred. "You thought you escaped me," he said, walking closer, "but you were made in my lab, Rila, and now you're coming back." Jack didn't waste time. He ran down the hall, shotgun in hand. Cern turned just in time to see the blast tear the controller from his grip. The device shattered on the floor, sparks flying. Rila gasped, falling to one knee. Free again, Cern turned to run too late. Her hand grabbed him by the neck and lifted him into the air. He choked, eyes wide. "You called me useless," she growled. "Let's see how useful you are without air." But before she crushed him. She paused, her hand shook. Jack placed a hand on her arm. "He's not worth it." She looked at Jack, breathing hard. Then dropped Cern to the floor like trash. "You're lucky," she said. "I'm not like you." They locked the doctor and his broken crew in the Rustwing's old brig. Then Jack turned to her. "You all right?" She didn't answer, just looked at him with strange eyes, then nodded slowly. "Thank you," she whispered, but Jack shook his head. "No need. You saved me," she said. Jack smiled gently. "Maybe, but I think you just saved yourself." Rila had always believed she was empty inside, not because she felt nothing, but because they told her she was nothing. Her body was too big. Her insides too strong to support new life. They had said it so many times that she had accepted it as truth, until the morning she collapsed on the floor of the Rustwing. Jack found her in the engine room, lying motionless next to a toolbox. Her breathing was slow, her skin cold for a second. He thought she was dying. He carried her, straining under her weight, into the medbay. He connected the scanners and held her hand as the machine buzzed to life. He whispered, "Stay with me, Rila," again and again. And then the screen flashed. Not red, not warning, but something he didn't expect. Jack stared at the results, heart racing. He checked again, then again. His voice trembled when he said it aloud. "She's pregnant." Rila opened her eyes hours later. Jack was sitting beside her, silent and pale. She groaned softly. "What happened?" "You fainted," Jack said gently. "You're okay now." She rubbed her forehead. "Feels like my brain got stepped on." Jack didn't smile, didn't joke. He just looked at her with those calm, human eyes. Then he took a deep breath and said, "Rilla, the scans found something." She turned to him slowly, heart thudding. Jack showed her the screen's soft lights, a small pulse flickering in the center. It looked like a light, like a heartbeat. Her eyes widened. "That's not possible." Jack nodded. "And yet, it's there." She stared at the screen, hands shaking. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just her body doing something strange. It was life, growing inside her. "How?" she whispered, not even sure who she was asking. "I don't know," Jack said, "but it's real." Tears filled her eyes, blurring the small beating light. All those years being called broken, all those years of being told she was useless. But now inside her was proof they were wrong. Her voice cracked. "Is it yours?" Jack looked shocked, then gently shook his head. "No, it's not mine," she nodded slowly, trying to remember a long time ago. After she escaped the labs, she had been attacked by raiders. One of them had tried to use her, but she had fought back, nearly killed him. Could life have sparked even from something so dark? Her thoughts raced, emotions crashing into each other, fear, sorrow, disbelief. Then something she never felt before, a strange, warm feeling in her chest, hope. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'll help you." She looked at him sharply. "Why?" "Because you're not alone anymore," he said, "and neither is that child." For the next few days, everything changed. Jack adjusted the med bay to fit her better. He studied alien birth cycles. Even hired a medic droid who specialized in off-world biology. Rilla watched silently, her heart still confused. She didn't know what kind of mother she would be. She didn't even believe she could be one. "I'm not built for this," she said one night. "My people said I'd die if I tried." Jack leaned on the wall next to her, arms crossed. "Then we'll prove them wrong," he said, like we always do. One evening, she placed her hand on her belly. It was still flat in a bump. No kick butt. She could feel something. Not just physically, emotionally, a connection. She thought of the cage she had once been kept in, the chains, the words, the rejection, and now this tiny thing growing inside her. This life didn't care about her size, her scars, or her past. It only knew her heartbeat and trusted it. Jack walked in, carrying a tray of food and some tea. "Still hungry?" he asked with a half-smile. Rilla nodded, eyes soft. "Yeah." More than usual, he handed her the tray, then sat beside her. "What if I mess this up?" she whispered. Jack looked at her seriously. "Then we figure it out together. And if I die giving birth?" Jack went silent, then reached over and gently took her massive hand in his. "Then I'll raise the child to know their mother was the strongest woman I ever knew." She looked away, tears sliding down her cheek. Not from fear, but from something even deeper. She had found what she never thought she would. Not just safety, not just survival, but family. Asterisk, the news traveled faster than light. An outcast Xandar, female officially marked unfit to breed, was now pregnant. Not just pregnant, but carrying a hybrid child, and the father was unknown across the Xandari Empire. Whispers turned to shouts. How is it possible? She was declared a genetic failure. Bring her back, she must be studied. Back on the Rustwing, Rilla stared at the blinking screen in Jack's cockpit. The news feed showed her old homeworld shining cities, floating spires, perfect symmetry, all built by a society that threw her away like garbage. And now they wanted her back. Not for forgiveness, not for love, but for research. They don't care about me, she said coldly, arms wrapped around her growing belly. They never did. Jack stood beside her, watching the screen, his jaw clenched. They're not getting you, but it wasn't that simple. The Xandari Council had issued a formal demand, saying her body was public property, and her child a possible genetic breakthrough. They were willing to pay any price, threaten any planet, even declare war, just to take her back. Why now? She asked quietly, why do they care now, when I needed them most before? Jack looked at her, eyes steady. Because you have something they can't control. She nodded slowly. Life, days passed in tension. The Rustwing stayed docked on a small neutral moon called Fenyo 6. Jack and Rila had to move in shadows, avoid scanners, hide from patrols. Rila wore a large cloak to cover her size, but even then, whispers followed them rumors. Stares, eyes full of greed. On the fourth night, a message came through the encrypted channel, a voice she hadn't heard in years. Rila, it said, "This is your mother." She froze, her blood turning to ice. Her mother had stood beside the high breeders the day she was exiled. Her mother had said, "My daughter is ashamed to our blood," and now she wanted to speak? Jack saw the hurt in her eyes. "You don't have to listen," but Rila raised her hand. "I want to hear it." The message played again. "They want your child," her mother said, "but I want you, Rila, alive and safe. Come back to us, and I'll protect you." Rila's hands shook. It sounded like love, but she knew better. Her people didn't believe in love, only in function, rank, bloodlines. This wasn't a rescue, it was a trap. Jack stepped forward. "We don't owe them anything." Rila nodded. "I know, but I also know they'll never stop." That night she made a decision. No more hiding, no more running. She would go back, not to surrender, but to stand. "I will walk in front of them," she said. Not as a mistake, not as an experiment, but as a mother. Jack stared at her. Filled with quiet awe, she had grown from a scared, broken exile into something else, into someone unstoppable. "Then I'm with you," he said, "all the way." The Rustwing turned toward the Zandari core worlds. It was a suicide move, one broken ship. It's one outcast female and a human against an empire. But Rila didn't care. She would not return in chains. She would not return in shame. She would walk onto their shining platforms with her head high, with her belly full of life, and show them that even the discarded can carry the future. As the stars stretched before them, Jack touched her hand. "You ready?" Rila closed. Her eyes then opened them, calm, fierce, fearless. "I was born ready," she said. "They just didn't see it." The Zandari landing platform shone like polished silver under twin suns. Crowds gathered on every level, scientists, nobles, reporters, all staring at the ship that dared return. The Rustwing, it looked like trash compared to the sleek cruisers around it, but everyone held their breath as its doors opened, and out stepped the one they had thrown away. Rila walked slowly, her cloak falling behind her like a wave. Her tall frame towered over the guards. Her hands rested gently on her swollen belly. Every step was quiet but powerful. Like thunder waiting to fall, beside her walked Jack, worn boots, calm eyes, no weapons. Just a man who had stayed by her side when no one else would. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "She's pregnant," another hissed, "Impossible." But there she was, the one labeled defective, the one cast into exile, now carrying the future they claimed she could never have. The council waited at the edge of the platform, robes heavy, faces cold. The high breeder stepped forward, his voice strong but shaky. "Rila, you have returned without permission." She didn't bow, didn't kneel. She simply looked him in the eye and said, "No one gave me permission to live either, but I did." The crowd went silent, even the wind seemed to pause. Another counselor stepped forward. "We demand access to the child. This could change our genetic future." Jack stepped forward, voice steady. "You had your chance. You labeled her trash," he added. "You don't get to claim her now. We are the law." The high breeder snapped. "No," Rila said firmly, placing a hand on her belly. "This child is not yours. This body is not yours. This life is mine." The council shifted nervously. They hadn't expected her to speak like this, confident, clear, unshaken. They had expected the broken girl they threw away. But she was gone. In her place stood a mother, a warrior, a survivor. "You called me too big to reproduce," she said loudly, "so the whole crowd could hear, but maybe you were just too small to see what I really was." The silence was broken by a single sound, clapping. One by one, people in the crowd began to cheer. Not everyone, but enough. Young Zandari, half-breeds, castaways, even a few old nobles. They had seen the truth. She wasn't just a symbol of survival. She was proof that even the unwanted could rise again. Jack leaned closer, whispering, "You just broke an empire." Rila smiled softly. I didn't break it, she whispered back. I gave it a new beginning. Later aboard the Rustwing, Rila sat quietly, a hand resting on her belly. The stars outside were calm, glowing gently. Jack brewed tea in the corner. Humming to himself, she turned to him. Do you think the child will be like me? Jack looked at her. I hope so. Rila raised an eyebrow. Why? 'Cause you're strong, kind, brave, and stubborn as hell, he chuckled. She laughed for real this time, the sound echoing through the ship. For the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of what was coming next. She was ready for it, whatever shape it took. She wasn't alone anymore. Jack sat beside her, their shoulders touching. One human, one giantess, one unborn child. Not a perfect family, but a real one, and in the vast dark of the galaxy, that was more powerful than any empire.